Welcome, everybody, to the Masterful Origins of He-Man. Thank you so much for being here. Needless to say, we would not be here today, any of us, if it were not for this gentleman here and his iconic creation that we all love. So let's first, I want to just definitely. Not that either of you here need any introduction, absolutely, but could you please just state your name and let our audience know what you did on Masters of the Universe, which they all know, but let's roll it that way.
My name's Mark Taylor, and I've been a designer all my life. For about, from the time I was 12 on, I really created heroes. That's what I love to do. And at Mattel, I created Masters of the Universe, so they say. And I did all of the first launch figures. I did Battle Cat. Actually, I stole Battle Cat with some tooling from Big Jim, and I repainted him and made him so that a He-Man figure would fit on him. And then I did I actually sculpted and did all the work on Castle Grayskull, the Land Ram, Wind Raider. I pretty much ended up, those of you that know the line in any way, I think I walked out about after Manny Faces, but I'm not sure. It's kind of foggy because you don't just do one figure. At that time, I would be working on maybe 6 at one time. And so that's, now I'll let the pretty part of our team here speak.
I'm Rebecca Taylor, and I'm his handler.
Yes.
And I do a lot of things for Mark because nobody gets Mark, you know? He's got amazing things that come out of his head that people don't understand. They didn't understand this when it came out. They did not get it. You have to start with a blank piece of paper and a pencil, and things come out of his head that are amazingly different than anybody else's things. I mean, it's not like you get a drawing and then you copy a drawing, or you get a car and then you copy the car, or you get a lion and you copy a lion. Things come out of his head that you've never seen before. They're amazing creations, and there's not much you can do to help somebody like that. If you start interjecting yourself in it, it'll change the whole feng shui of it, because it's a certain mindset and direction. So I help him when he needs something, like let's say the stickers or something like that. But he gives you the guidance. He tells you the style, and that's what I do for Mark. I'll help him, with the shapes of the things, the castle or something like that. And that's how I work with Mark. But he's got his own things coming out of here, and it's who knows what else is in there, Some things I don't want to see.
I'd like to talk to you both first about the foundations here. In terms of your interests and your influences, I've often heard, Mark, that you're a big fan of comics, Sword and Sorcery, Joseph Campbell, The Hero's Journey, Robert E. Howard, Flash Gordon, all of this stuff. And Rebecca, I would love to hear from you as well. Like, what were your interests that sort of fed into this creation?
I've always been a flat graphics person. My father was an artist, and he always had a lot of chalks and paper, colored papers, to tear up and make collages out of. And my background is a Hispanic background, and by just atavism, I liked the whole Aztec kind of Mayan design, flat graphics. Don't know why. And so it kind of went with the fashion design look, the fashion of paper dolls kind of thing. I did a lot of work for Barbie, patterns, and still now I'm actually doing fabric design. So for me, everything's flat graphics. I did a lot of labels for a lot of toy companies, but the labels were always the same. You've seen labels for Barbie that go on dressers and houses and in cars, and they're always the same. I don't know if they're the same now, but at that time, they were always flat graphics, flat colors. So I was really good at that because it's flat graphics. When Mark came to me about these labels, he said, I want you to do some labels for the castle, and I want them to be really weird. Big surprise. And he said, and I said, well, what do you mean? And he said, I mean really different. I want the kids to look at them and go, holy crap. I've never seen labels like this before. I don't even want you to use the conventional paint that you use on regular labels, which in that time was a paint called gouache, which was, you might know it. It was flat like acrylic. It was more delicate, but it gave you flat colors. He says, I want you to go back to like when we were in school and use that washy, inky stuff and let the colors run all together and run and be all crazy. And I said, really? Really, Mark? And that's how our life is. Really? And he said, yeah, do it that way. And it got weirder because then he said, and I want you to put a space something in there. I'm not going to say suit or robot because that's a big bone of contention there. He goes, and I want you to put one. By then I'm going, okay, because I have no idea what I'm doing. And he's going, and then make a pit with So I was doing this and I was thinking to myself, they are going to fire this guy when they see these things. And I kept saying, Mark, are you sure they're going to okay these? And he goes, who's going to okay them? I'm going to okay them. Nobody even cares about this line. No one's looking at it. No one cares about it. I'm okaying everything. So that's how it got there. So I was like the perfect person because I did what he wanted, and I had no reason, and I had no idea why, but someone else would have said, no, I don't do that kind of stuff.
And most importantly, she did it really well, because when we were, when it was all new, people, when kids would see it, they would get it immediately. I would go to the retail store or in testing, and the kids, anybody under 14, they got it. They looked at the labels, they got it. They would try to put the labels on in the proper places, or be more creative and put them on wherever they wanted. And they got the whole castle thing. And they got the thing with the figures. The amalgamation of the figures to the castle, to me, was everything. It was what I wanted.
Oh, tell them why the labels came about.
Yeah, the labels came about because they knocked the price point down so low on Castle Grayskull, and I wanted to keep the oversprays, and I wanted to keep the organic look. I wanted it to look like it had grown right up out of the floor. That was really important to me. Witches would understand that. And so they kept taking the price point down. Finally, they said, oh, you're not going to have any interior walls. Casually, an engineer comes to my office and says, you're not going to have any interior walls. We have to cost those out. And like everything, you guys know this, and I'll get back to this later, but to every negative, there's something better, positive that you can make if you think about it just a little bit. If you strain just a little bit, you can say, what can I do to make this even better than putting plastic walls on the inside? And so I went to her and I said, can you do some hangings, some labels, some floor mats, some things so the kid could extend their play pattern by just putting these against the wall? And that's what happened. And that's how most of you played with it. And I saw castles that look good. I see them still today. But you know what's amazing? A lot of people miss the fact that if you look at this silhouette of the castle, it's organic. It looks like it grew out of the ground, out of a rocky, horrible, miserable place. And that's what it's supposed to look like. And I would like to say this. When you come to a place like PowerCon, and I appreciate Val and his staff for making us so comfortable here. And I appreciate all of you for being so darn nice. I mean, I can't believe this many nice people in one place. I'm just not used to it.
That's true.
Now I want to hit you with the big question. how many people in here consider themselves creative? Just good. Well, all of you are. Where would you go to a place like this and see all the creative people that are here? You've got sculptors, you've got drawer guys, you've got designers of all types, you've got writers, you've got creative people of every kind. I've never seen it more congested. At one time I had about 56 people working for me. And of those 56, the percentage would have been lower than you guys of creative people. Yeah, and they were making money at it. You guys are special people because your creativity is for the sake of itself.
It's pure.
It's pure, thank you. It's pure and it's
Passionate.
It's what you're going to live for because it's what all real creative people live for. Everybody else is just a mouth. They can take it or leave it. They don't really care. But those of you that have the itch, and that's everyone in this room, you know what it means. It means you have to do it. And when you're doing something else, it bothers you because you've got to be creative. And that part of that creativity is to take something that most people would say, well, what are you going to do now? We just removed the walls from your castle. And most of you would have probably said, I don't know, maybe some tapestries, maybe some hangings, maybe a suit of armor or something, but I can fill that castle up. And so can you. And that's what makes a really good creative person. They take the negative and they make it into a positive because they want to. Not because they're going to make money at it or because they're challenged. It's that, but it's also much more. It's because you realize the opportunity is there. The opportunity, imagine what it was like for a guy like me. I'm probably one of the most unexceptional people you've ever met. And when I went to Mattel, the truth is, I was bored. Those people were lazy. No offense to any Mattel people in here, I'm sorry, but those people, they didn't have most of them didn't have the buzz anymore. It had been flailed out of them by corporate life. Now, I'm not picking on Mattel because this is what's important. Without Mattel, there would have been no He-Man. Absolutely not. Without me, there would have been no He-Man. I'm not being boastful, I'm just telling the truth. That's bottom line. To go to Mattel that worshiped Barbie, I mean, they worship her there because everybody's making a lot of money just doing the same thing again and again, right? But to go there and do something that was completely off the wall was both positive and negative. Because when I did the thing off the wall, right away everybody's paying attention. What do you think you're doing? What are you drawing in there? Why are you doing that?
What are you doing in there? Yeah. You can't have a door anymore.
It's true. Exactly. But the fact is, I also was special. In other words, they said, there's a guy over there, and he's doing this stuff, and it doesn't make any sense at all. Pretty soon, a guy named Wagner he didn't call me, actually. He called the preliminary design guys. I wasn't a preliminary design guy. I was a designer. That was the lowest you could be at that time. And all I did was supposedly was packaging and make things look better. You know, pretty them up. Be it Barbie, be it a figure of some kind or Shoguns. I could go on and name tons of stuff I worked on. But here's the thing that made it really interesting. As soon as I went into that room with all the important guys, you know, the suits, when I went in there, they put me back by the projectors. But they were showing my stuff on the wall. They'd taken my drawings out of my office and they put them on the wall. And the man, Wagner,
President of the company.
President of Mattel, yeah. And he comes along and it stopped him. It stopped him just like He-Man stops you guys. I watch you guys look at stuff and you see something great and man, it stops you right in your tracks. You can't help it. It's ringing that creative bell. And so Wagner stopped and he said, "What is this?" And it was a sketch. I've done many things, but I did one. A lot of you have seen it called Korak. It was done way before I went to Mattel. It was way before. And he says, "This is really weird." And the prelim guys, they're doing their dance because, bless their little hearts, they want to keep getting the nice money they're getting in the privileges they got. I didn't know who they were. I had no idea who they were. I didn't know who they were till after He-Man was done. Then I heard a lot from them. But that doesn't matter, because I'm not bitter about it, because I used everything I had. I got the benefit of trying every trick, everything I could, to see if I could get He-Man through that place. And I did. And at the end of it, when I left, I knew who was the best person there. I walked out the door, I felt good about it. I walked out the door on my terms, and my creativity helped me walk out that door. It was like...
And it succeeded, and you got it on the shelf. So there was victory for him.
Yep.
Because He-Man got on the shelf. So he knew that was the win.
Thank you.
You know, his stuff was on the shelf, and you guys got it. And little kids were in the aisles saying, Mom, I've got to have it, crying, stomping their feet. He's watching kids on the ground going, I have to have it, Mom, I have to have it. And he went.
I did. I mean, I got big tears running down my face. You can't help it. You mean that's not going to affect you? Any one of you out there, you see your product treated like that by an innocent mind, by the mind of a child, the most beautiful thing on earth, and you see them react to it viscerally, just the way you do, and if you don't cry, then you're a fool, because that's what life is all about.
We've seen other kids, pick up our toys and say, oh, I want this, and walk out the store. But this was like life or death, you know?
And it verified everything I thought. I mean, I'd gone to the child test already. I'd seen it win. We won at the child test. The kids tried to steal our product. How good do you get? We're sitting behind the two-way mirror, and the little kids, they bring in the product, and we were going against things like G.I. Joe, small version, with all the accessories. We were going against things like Star Wars, which was supposed to just wipe us out. We were going against everything that was supposed to take us. And the kids, once the black cover was taken off the toys, and they saw He-Man, Skeletor, Teela, Battle Cat, they saw the line laid out there, Beastman, they saw the line laid out there. The marketing person couldn't control them anymore. They went crazy. And she steps out of the room to talk to us and tell us, I'm having a hard, they're breaking these prototypes. And as she's talking to us, we see the one little guy, he stuffs He-Man in his bomber jacket. He looks across the table, and the kid across the table from him has He-Man, and he's rolled him up in a hoodie. I'm not exaggerating, this is true. And the one kid reaches out to grab Battle Cat, but I just got through painting the armor on Battle Cat, so it's still kind of tacky. And he thought it was some kind of fly trap or something. So he jerks his hand back. And we watched all this. I mean, we're closer than me to you, sir. And he jerks his hand back. Then one of the kids reaches out to take Teela. Now, Teela was the gal. Teela was not this blushing, helpless, gee, what am I going to do till the hero gets here? Teela was willing to take on anybody, anytime, any place. And that's the way she was designed. She was definitely not Barbie or anything like Barbie. And later when they tried to turn her into other female stars, good. A lot of my friends did that. They did their very best. But none of them were like Teela. And the boys took one look at her. When my friend, the sculptor, Tony Guerrero, one of the best sculptors I've ever worked with, ever. He was a friend of my father-in-law's. And he was at Mattel, and he worked under this very oppressive person. And when he did all of the figures, he did them better than my B-sheets. A lot of you have seen my sketches. They are certainly not shy. And Tony Guerrero, when he did them, he took them even a step further. Sometimes I'd look at it and I'd go, holy mackerel, that's much better than my B-sheet. And he was the type of guy, he says, yeah, well, you want me to cut back on it a little bit? You want me to? And I said, Teela was the only one. I said, you know what? She may be over the line. She may be just a little too hot for 6-year-olds. And Tony said, I won't do it. He said, I won't do it. I want her to look like that. Because, I mean, we worked in a very oppressive place. But I want to repeat, working for Mattel gave me the opportunity to manipulate them, besides being manipulated maybe myself. One day I came down much later. I'd made vice president. That meant I got to wear Armani ties. My wife would pick them out. But the fact is, they were hauling my drawing desk out of my office. I graduated to having an office at that time instead of a cubicle. Best work I ever did was in a cubicle. So they're hauling my drawing desk out. And I called the CEO of the company and I said, Jill, what's going on? They're taking my drawing, the security guys are down here taking my drawing desk out. And she said, I remember this, we don't pay vice presidents to draw. You don't, where do you think all my ideas have come from? I have to draw them because I have to take what's going on in here and I have to make it to where I can remember it step by step and have evidence of it so I can go back without redoing the entire thing and pick up where I left off. A lot of you that create know that's true. You know that the best stuff starts happening once you start committing to paper or to sculpting. Yeah. Once you start doing it, you kind of make notes and you go back there and you pick it up and you go, oh, I remember now. And you pick it up and you start going again. That's very important. Somebody here, a really nice guy came by and he's like many people do. And I don't look down at him for this, but he said, where do your ideas come from? Where do you get your ideas? And I said, well, some of them I dream. Some of them I've read about. Some of them I've seen in movies. I don't know. They're kind of all messed up. And I have to get, in a book I just wrote, I say, I have to get from the inside to the outside. As a little kid, I wanted to get everything to where it would be automatic. As soon as I could imagine it, I could draw it. And that's when I knew that I was going to be in for a good life. Because I got to where, as soon as I would imagine a world, I call it the world of. And when I could imagine the world of, I could start drawing it. And then when I started drawing it, I could build on it. Because I could make mistakes and stuff. And I'd go back, this would be much nicer if I did this. Much better if I did this. Why don't I just move this over here? And that's a real working drawing. Or sculpture. It doesn't matter. I mean, it really doesn't matter.
It'd be toothpicks.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
It'd be gum.
I did the turtles with a combination of Sculpey and toothpicks. I put it together the first time because it's the only way I could get the real feel of these guys fighting and wrestling and doing the things that they had to do. He-Man was a little more complex, but I had the wonderful sculpture of Tony Guerrero. And I would go up and I'd talk to him. And right away he said stuff like, well, we could do it the way they do all the dolls in this place. Or we could start really doing a product line. And I said, well, let's take a shot at it. For some reason, Wagner liked it. So why don't we take a shot at it? So the first thing he did was he said, then we'll do a series of very good-looking slugs. And we'll find out how far we could take them. By breaking the legs off, the arms off, he would cast them. And we'd break the arms, the legs off, and move them. And that's how I found out that He-Man wouldn't set on Battle Cat. The Battle Cat I got was a piece of old tooling from Big Jim. I always liked him. I did the Tarzan, which used the tooling, and then I just looked at the cat and I went, I think I'm going to keep this at my desk because it looks good. So I kept it, and when I kept it, I just kept liking it. I liked the pose he was in, the way he was kind of down on his suspension, you know? I mean, if you've ever owned a cat or watched him at the zoo, they never walk standing straight up. Never. They always drop down on their suspension. They lower their center of gravity. Well, see, I noticed this stuff. And so I didn't want my hero to ride a horse. All heroes ride horses. My hero doesn't ride a horse. My hero rides a 16-foot cat.
I'd like to also ask you about the...
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. Are you kidding me? Please. I'd be here all day listening. Skeletor, your villain, the famous villain that you created, you know, there's a really interesting backstory to that as to what inspired that when you were a child. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Probably one of the most unlucky guys on earth.
Skeletor?
Yeah,
Or you?
Skeletor,
Skeletor or you? Mark?
the original Skeletor. And what he did was he got himself shot. And he wound up in a, believe it or not, I write about this in my book because it was so pivotal to me. He wound up in like a scary show.
Oh, a
at
sideshow?
At the Pike, yeah. What would you
Was
call
a sideshow?
a sideshow like.
Like, come and see the bearded lady.
Well,
come
no,
and
you
see
just
the...
walk through this thing and lights go off and
Like a
God, it-
haunted house, fun house.
exactly, and it stunk. It was terrible, and I was there with my cousins and my uncle and my dad, and I wasn't a kid anymore. I was like, how many people in here are 11? Anybody 11?
They're all 11.
That's true. So they go in this place, and all the atavistic memories I had kicked in. I could smell something wrong. I could feel something wrong. I didn't want to go in there. Now, I'm not a little kid anymore. I'm like 11 years old, but, I don't know.
That's almost kissing age.
Thank God, yes. But so I went in there, and we went through the whole thing, and all of a sudden, this figure drops out of the ceiling with this real loud noise and strobe lights. And I just met Elmer McGurty, right? And I looked at that, and I knew it was alive. I knew that it had once been alive. I knew that was real. I knew it wasn't some corny mannequin. I knew it was real. You would have too.
I saw it. Later. It was there a long time.
Wow.
And
It didn't affect me the way it did him, though. It was creepy, and I didn't like it, but it didn't affect me that way.
I took off running. That strobe went off, and he's dancing in front of me on this stupid rope, and I took off running, and I ran down everybody. I was going to get out of that place. All I could think about was, I'm getting out of here. This is not good. And I've never forgotten that smell, the smell of old Elmer, who'd been strung up for like 50 years. And it left me an impression of what putrefaction and death and things like that were all about. And that was the beginning of Skeletor, because I said, how can I make something have such an effect on other people? Because Skeletor has to be the baddest of the bad. He has to be the most evil, the most demonic. Skeletor must do that because Skeletor must fight the hero of all heroes. Now, Skeletor believes he's right. Like all villains, he doesn't think he's wrong, and it's just a matter of time till He-Man will catch up with him. It doesn't work like that. Does life seem to work like that? Never. Skeletor thought to himself, as soon as I rule, I'll make everything better. I'll make it more like I think is the best. And so the eternal struggle goes on. You've got He-Man over here with his minions, and He-Man doesn't even use magic. I don't know who wrote that in Filmation, but you're wrong. He-Man does not use magic because you always have to pay back magic. You see what I mean? If you use magic, how do you all of a sudden say, no offense to you, of course. How do you all of a sudden say, no, I don't want to play anymore? Do you get away with that? Does that sound like Faust? Does that sound like any of the classics? No, it doesn't. So He-Man knows that if he gets into it and uses magic, that he's going to owe a debt, and he doesn't want to owe that debt. He wants to win straight up by doing the right thing, and he does. Skeletor, like all really evil people, will do whatever's necessary to win. He has to. He has to do whatever's necessary to win. With a face like that, what do you think? He's going to get the girl to go to the prom with him? I don't think so. So Skeletor is the result of, for me, creating everything evil. And that's just the way the product was done. I did He-Man on a battle cat, Skeletor. And that little kid that I saw at Toys R Us, all he could see, all we had out at that time was He-Man, Skeletor, Battle Cat. So you could buy a He-Man and a Battle Cat, a Skeletor and a Battle Cat, or a He-Man and Skeletor and Battle Cat. That was the way we actually put it out. And because we had to start making money, because the only way the company would really believe in us, regardless of all the child testing, was when they started looking at the balance sheets. And they had a thing they called ROI, return on investment. And that was when you look at it, you go, well, I can't go out and force kids to buy it. We didn't have to. Once they started buying it, thank goodness. Once they started buying it, my dreams were met.
Once they started buying it, everybody invented it.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. Yeah.
When Prince Adam showed up initially in the DC comics, and then he became a prominent figure in the Filmation cartoon. Prince Adam transforms into He-Man in the cartoon, but your original concept for Prince Adam was as a separate character. Do you remember what your intention was for him?
I don't mean to offend you, but read the book.
When is that coming out?
Tell her about
is that coming
Prince
soon?
Adam. Tell her.
I didn't do any Prince Adam.
You did the outfit you told me, and that made me sick.
They came to me and they said, we want somebody who wouldn't hurt anybody, and the Filmation people are bugging us. So I did a real quick sketch, and I immediately looked at it and I went, oh, that is so not He-Man. That is so not.
It was very foppish with a hat, as I recall. Yeah.
And there was a king involved. Yeah. King's balancing an orb somewhere. I did all those drawings.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
But I never fell into it. I knew that was wrong.
And what did you have an idea, like Danielle said, that you were going to had for the...
Sure.
What was it?
I had the whole story. I wanted to go on and just tell the story. I was very, very influenced by Prince Valiant.
What was King Adam going to be? I mean, Prince Adam going to be then?
There was no Prince Adam.
Oh.
There was He-Man. There was He-Man young, and then on into his life, and there was no Prince Adam per se. The Filmation people, they took it upon themselves. If there's any of you here, sorry, but truth is truth. They took it upon themselves, just change what they wanted to change. And later on, I actually went to one of these meetings, just like this, where they were showing a film of some kind. And one of the people said, yeah, those crazy people at Mattel, they kept sending us stuff that didn't make any sense at all. And I was looking at what they were doing, and I was thinking, this has nothing to do with He-Man. This, but let me explain something. A lot of guys I've met, when they were kids, they loved the Filmation series. That doesn't mean they're bad. They were just different than what I wanted. Mm. And, let's face it, since you're all creative people, and we're all talking in this coven, since we're all talking here, we all know that we know what's right, and we don't like it when somebody starts mucking about with it. But I didn't like it any better than they did.
But it was good. We didn't mind that the kids enjoyed the whole bit, the whole Filmation thing. The kids loved it, and that was great. I'm sure all of you liked it. I mean, I hear that you ran home to watch the cartoons and all that. Well, you loved it. You'd take anything you wanted, and I appreciate that. I do. I can dig that. Because he wasn't doing anything else, so it's not like you were two-timing him. Right? But and I can understand that. While he's back and he's written a book, and at the end of the book, he's starting to write the stories of what really happened. And the end of these stories on this book, the end of the stories of the book is like who He-Man's father really is, who He-Man's mother really is, what really happened to Skeletor's face, how the Will of Souls really began, how the whole thing is. And now it's the story. Before was the story for your 9-year-old selves, and now it's the story for your 40-year-old selves. But it's for the same guys. It's for the adult version of you, And so you get to you had a break. Now but it's all customized just for you.
Do we know yet when the book is coming?
Yeah, it's going to be before the end of the year. Okay. It had a little stall because Mark had a little health issue, and he tried to rush it to get it to this PowerCon, and it got so like, and I said, it's not going to work. I mean, just don't try it. Mm-hmm. Cool your jets, make it so that it comes out nice and easy. And it doesn't have any bad juju on it, like a rushing juju,
Before I open it up to Q&A for the audience, I'd like to ask a question here. You're both, experienced the fan community here, and Rebecca's active on Facebook quite a bit. What was your reaction upon seeing such a rabid fan base and people even getting tattoos of your label designs of the Well of Souls and everything? I'd love to hear what your reaction was to that.
I
Saw a guy
love it.
yesterday who has all of Castle Grayskull right on this muscle right here. I don't even have a muscle that big. This guy has Castle Grayskull on there, beautifully done, tones, line. I mean, I'd be proud to draw it. It's that good a tattoo.
There's a gentleman in Germany, his name's Sven. He has the entire Castle Grayskull on his back.
Yep.
I've put it on Facebook, and it's a big old giant cat. He's got a big back. And it's big old giant Castle Grayskull. And even in one corner in a window, he has his father passed away. He's got a picture of his father's urn.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it's a religious thing, truly. And then on his arm, he has something else. And I asked, when I was there in Germany, he let me take pictures of it. And then I thought about it and wrote to him and asked him if I could put it on Facebook. And he's very proud of it. And then someone recently, of course, people have the Well of Souls, a lot of tattoos of the Well of Souls. And the other day I got, and they're so sweet, they ask me. It's like, no, you may not. You may only have, the throne chair, which looks like a toilet seat. They had that carpet, the carpet looks like a semi-oriental carpet, the red one. That was tattooed on somebody. It looked kind of good. I thought about that one. And various ones in various places on their body, and they look really good. So I always ask them if I can put them on Facebook,
Awesome.
And they're very, very proud to have them.
Really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I like them. I think they're great.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to open it up to Q&A. If you want to ask a question, please come to the microphone here in the center of the room and have at it.
So first off, thank you for everything you did. It's really affected my childhood. But you've expressed your dissatisfaction with Filmation. I'm curious, how did the first 4 mini-comics compare to your original vision?
You did them, didn't you?
I'll try to tell you how I remember it. I came back to my office, a cubicle, and I came back, and I'd been doing something like, I think I just hired Rudy Guerrero, a great illustrator, to see if he could illustrate like Frank Frazetta, because we had no advertising. We had nothing out there that was helping us. We're the only toy line that was ever launched without any assistance whatsoever. No movie, no license, no anything. So I walked in the room and somebody said, here are these 4 mini comics. I think there were 4, maybe 6, because I seem to remember more of them. And I looked at them and I went, what am I supposed to do with these? And they said, we're going to put them in the package because we need some kind of story. And I said, you're coming to the wrong guy. How can I do this? I'm doing the packaging, I'm doing the product. I mean, I was working, the sun would come up and would shine through the windows and I'd be there. I'd look across the whole R&D area of Mattel and I was the only guy there. I'm not a martyr, but I did love what I was doing. But I looked at those and I said, I think Akala did them. I think Alex Akala did them. And I said, they're competent. He's done as good as you could do. So let's hang in there with them. But they said, well, do you want to approve them? And I said, that's wrong. You shouldn't get me to approve them. Somebody who sees the bigger picture should be approving them, if they're going to approve them. But that's kind of how I remember it happening. The next day, they were gone. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Hi.
Hi.
Just want to say thank you for creating. I remember getting Castle Grayskull. I got down and talked to both of you yesterday. You got to meet my daughter. And, I'm not sure if it was 82, 83, but one of those Christmases receiving Battle Cat and He-Man and Skeletor. And to me, it was Skeletor and Castle Grayskull. I just wanted to share that with you.
That was it.
I was wondering, Rebecca, you told us a little bit about the Well of Souls yesterday, a.k.a. the dungeon. I was wondering if you might give us a little preview of something that might be from your origin stories, Mark, as well, from this coming out that we don't know about, what you're thinking about or what you had perceived as had for the origins of He-Man and for those stories.
Good. Boy, you're going to love the book. No offense. You're going to love the book. I don't let anything go by in the book because the book starts out, I can tell you just roughly, because He-Man and I are one. You know, in other words, he's my life. He was my imagination. I don't know how many of you it was the same, but it seemed like I had no power. None at all. I was a little kid. Everybody knew better than me. Everybody told me what to do. Everybody could beat me up. Basically, the world looked pretty bleak. And so I started imagining He-Man as my buddy. And, you know, if I got, first day of school, boy, seems like we changed schools every year where I was. And you go to the first day of school, everybody'd have to try you out. If I had He-Man with me, especially if he was riding on a 16-foot cat, I think I would have done better. But the origin is, you have to know kind of how I was growing up, and then He-Man kind of just morphs out of that. I thought writing a book would be a piece of cake because I've written scripts for movies. I've done all kinds of stuff that kind of like that. I had no idea how tough it really is to write about yourself. It's really tough. And so He-Man was really kind of, he dropped out of my life. And the crux of it, and it's fitting that I'd share this with you guys, the crux of it was at Mattel when they're saying, we can't get a boy's toy out. Clash of the Titans has failed. Battlestar Galactica was laughable. We've done everything, and we can't seem to get it going. And Ray Wagner was really mad. He was ready to start firing people. And so that was a perfect place for a guy like me to step in. And I'd say, I basically said, I'll do it. And everybody starts laughing, of course. You'll do what? Well, I've got an idea. And that idea came out of my life. It came out of the mythos that I dreamed about in here and I talked about and I'd thought about. And right after I did He-Man, I went to Tomy Toys for a while. Great company. And then the president of Tomy Toys called me to Playmates, and I did the Turtles. I did the first launch of the Turtles, and I did the 2002 launch of the Turtles. And the Turtles were entirely different than He-Man, but there was something about them. I liked the Turtles, too, because they had to stick together. It was a love story. He-Man is all about standing alone on those massive legs with all those muscles and not blinking. You know what not blinking means? It means when you're learning to box, they tell you you can't blink because if you blink, you're going to get hit again. So you don't blink. So He-Man was the kind of guy that could give and take a punch. He always could. And he never failed to pursue the right side, to protect the weak, to protect the helpless, and to do the right thing. He always did the right thing.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
Well, first I want to say that I think with how diverse the entire He-Man universe is, you have the mini comics, the DC comics, you have the cartoon, you have all this other stuff. I think I would be very much interested in a storyline that follows the original mythos and idea that you had for He-Man. And like you said, it would be something for us who are now grown up. So I think that if you were to pursue that, I would be very much interested in seeing how it would play out. Because, we just can't really get enough He-Man. But my question is, what do you think of the resurgence of Masters of the Universe in the last 10 years? The classics figures, the figures that are based on the concept art like Vicor and Vicron, Battle Cat, and this giant Castle Grayskull that we have now that came out a few years ago.
The Savage Era?
Yes.
I think the Savage Era has been tamed down quite a bit. I think it's become, even as it's melded into these other eras, it's become toned down. And the resurgence of the Savage era would become more savage to have that resurgence, I think, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely.
And I think it would be a great idea to redo the Savage era and make it a little bit more savage. To actually pep it up a little bit so it wouldn't really be really wouldn't be bringing it back. It would be bringing it back and pumping it up a little bit.
A lot.
Yeah, but it would be it'd be a fake. It'd be a pump up of the Savage area.
Let me ask you a question. Let's just cut to the chase here. Let me ask, has anybody ever hit you?
Yes.
Really? Have you ever hit anybody?
Yeah.
Of course you have. All of us have. And when you get hit by somebody with full intent, in other words, they're not taking anything off it. They're clipping you as hard as they can. Then you get a little touch of what she's talking about. And by the way, the same goes for you. When you whack somebody, and at that moment, if you could, that would be the one punch that would take them out. Because that has to be the edge city that He-Man has to go to be into the world of today. Otherwise, how's he going to compete with all the games? Why wouldn't I sit there and play a game? Oh, this guy's punching this guy. Look, he knocked him clear out of the world, And that's true. I'm not making fun of it. I'm just saying the He-Man I see, he stands out in the crowd. But he's never a bully. He-Man has never been a bully. If I thought that they would make my hero into a bully, it would break my heart. Really would.
Does your bully get hit?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He-Man gets hit. And the best thing about him is he gets up again.
Well, how does he have retribution?
He hits back.
Oh, okay.
Isn't that what? I'm sorry. Isn't that what you're supposed to do? I mean.
But he doesn't kill?
No.
We have about 5 minutes left before the next panel, so come on down, guys.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Back in the in 2002 era, when Mattel was relaunching the line and the new cartoon was coming out, they created the King Grayskull character, which was very polarizing to fans. A lot of people thought that it watered down He-Man. He was bigger than He-Man. He was stronger than He-Man. But a lot of people said that he was an homage to your original creation. And I was wondering what your thoughts were on the character.
Absolutely not. I didn't care about kings. Kings are a title. I mean, we've got presidents, we've got prime ministers, we got whatever. Those are titles. He-Man doesn't care about that stuff. Like I say, He-Man understands the fear of immediacy. In other words, right now something's going to happen, and he deals in that. He's, like I say, he's not going to hurt anybody that doesn't hurt him. But those titles and stuff, that's so typical Mattel, because that's what Mattel is all about. They're all about, don't forget, I'm the president and you're not. They're all about that kind of stuff. And bless their little hearts, they go over there and they do those cute little female fashion figures, and that's where they should stay. They're not, I don't think Mattel's capable of doing another He-Man, because I'm not there. I'll be honest with you.
Hello. I'll try to be really quick with my question. I know that over the years, as the line went on, and the influence was spread out amongst many more people, that some of your designs, I think, got toned down a little bit. And looking through your portfolio and seeing things like the Rhino Man and stuff like that, were there any particular designs that you wish had gotten made that didn't get produced?
So many. I dreamed so many things, and they didn't want to pursue them because they didn't want to spend the money on the tooling. Can you imagine? You've got a $4.5 billion line, and they didn't want to spend the money on doing tooling for more legs and arms and, on variations on a theme. What? How could you do that as a company? And at the time, I would go, why would they do that? And then later I realized they did that because they really didn't live it. They didn't dream it the way you guys do. I listen to you guys talk, and every one of you has better ideas than the president of Mattel.
They couldn't picture it. They couldn't follow it through.
No.
I wanted to say one thing about you guys. You know, when he asked you how many of you were creative and you raised your hand, I liked the fact that a lot of you have jobs and maybe they're not in the most creative form right now. Maybe some of you are, you know, work in propane, that you work in, you know, furniture stores, you work in all this, but you still go home and you create these things, these Barbie, even Barbie. You know,
I have to applaud that. You're absolutely
even
right.
these little forms of creativity come out of your shops. You have these little shops and you have to make this stuff. And that is like that passion that can't be killed. You're already tired, you have a family, and you still have to make this stuff. That is hard to kill, that kind of passion. That is true passion. That is passion that's just waiting to be expressed. Something happened, to some wonderful thing to take you into that place and make that permanent for you. That's amazing.
If you told me I want to do another He-Man, and I want him to be as powerful as the first one, I want him to be as different, I want him to have the levels of the first one, but I want this to be a new one, I'd say do it as a cottage industry. Don't send it to China. Don't have other people do it for you. And whatever you do, don't have it turn into a TV segment thing. And don't let somebody do terrible movies on it. You know, that, what was anybody thinking to do that? We already had won. It was like, if you can imagine, the guy receiving the pass, stepping over the goal line, and then stopping so somebody could tackle him. I never understood what they were, because I didn't understand, it was time for me to leave. See, because I couldn't get it at all, I'm going, wait a minute, we're making billions of dollars. Not millions, billions of dollars. What do they want? Well, they got what they wanted. They got what they wanted. They turned He-Man into what they liked. And I still love it. I can't help it because I was kind of in on the foundation of it. But they wronged it. They knew they wronged it. And those people are all gone. They all went on to other careers and stuff. They didn't care. But that was mine. That was my little childhood. And when I did it, I was glad. I was proud of everything Rudy and I, Ted, everybody did. I was proud of it. I just couldn't believe they could spit on it like they did. Excuse me, but that's the way I feel about it.
I have time for one more quick question. We only have like a minute left, so if you could.
Rather than a question itself, I wanted to talk about when you mentioned that there's always a positive with the negative, because my wife was bringing it up, and that kind of brought memories of my childhood. When I was a kid, I was about 8 years old, and I wanted Battle Cat, but I only had like He-Man, Skeletor, and Tila. Those were my figures. I always wanted Battle Cat. And my brother had this very cheap little tiger that was from like a dollar store or something like that. And I borrowed it and I painted it like Battle Cat. And I was like, well, you know, it was like this big, so it looked really ridiculous, but it was fun. But then my dad saw that and he said like, oh, that's the tiger you want, right? I was like, yeah, I painted it. So I guess that moved him, and he ended up getting the real Battle Cat for me. And then later on, same thing happened with Grayskull. I wanted Grayskull, but you know, it was expensive at the time, and I was like, oh well, whatever. So I ended up making one out of cardboard, and I even made the labels and everything. And it was massive. It was like this big. Because you know, I didn't have any restrictions.
Good for you.
It was cardboard. So I made it this big, and it was beautiful, and it had like 2 floors and everything. And one day, it was sitting next to our restroom, and the restroom flooded. So when I came back from school, my mom's like, hey, something happened, and I'm like, my Castle Grayskull is just like,
tsunami at Grayskull.
It's just so sad. And lo and behold, that was the negative, but the positive was that I ended up getting the actual Castle Grayskull. So,
good for them. Really good.
I just wanted to share my story.
Oh, good story.
See,
Good story.
See, you can't keep an imagination down. You can't rub it out. Corporations try. I mean, I'm 77 years old, and I've had a taste of every corporation you can have. The only kind of He-Man I think I would have anything to do with now would be cottage industry. Do you know what that means? That means we're somehow, some way, us people in here would produce it ourselves. There must be some way to do it, because the pros don't do it that well, do they? I mean, do they? No. I mean, the people who are authorities who say, I know how to do this.
But you know, there might be a group of people that you're kind of know that you're proud of, and I have a feeling there may be a little figure action thingy coming up here pretty soon. You never know.
Ooh, that's
There
an
might be a little
tantalizing
bit.
hint.
I've been hearing some little mice talking about there might be a little figure thing coming up that might be worth grabbing.
Ooh.
I'm just talking about a little bird told me that there might be
But if we
something
did
to
it,
look forward.
we wouldn't do it tentatively. We'd do it just like He-Man would do it. With all of our might and all of our intent, we would do it right. And just like we did the first time.
Yeah, I hear that there's something coming up.
Okay, on that note, let's hear it for Mark and Rebecca Taylor. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Folks,